Hello, it's your boy Willet. This is our Willet's Scare and Shock Saturday episode. And we're gonna do something a little different. Usually it's video related, usually it's me breaking down the paranormal, but we're gonna actually kind of stick on at least the topic of breaking down the paranormal. So apparently some, as they call spooky experts, I believe it is scientists, are they believe they have revealed a simple explanation for things that are going bump in the night, so kind of debunking ghosts. So let's see what they have to say. Me personally, I am a believer of the paranormal. I do believe they are out there, but do I believe that a lot of the stuff that you do hear and such can be debunked? Absolutely. So I want to see if they have similar ideas ideas to what I have that I've shared in previous reaction videos. So let's go ahead and check it out, shall we? This was posted April 20th, yes, published April 27th, 2026, so not too far back in time. Let's see what they have to say. Shoutoutrealtor.com. You are not a sponsor, but you can be. Hit your boy up. Okay. So it sounds like they are believing that a lot of the sounds that people think are like footsteps and such is rickety plumbing, apparently. So let's see. Rodney Schmaltz, I hope I'm saying that right. He is a senior study author and psychology professor at Canada's MacEwan University. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So he says, quote, consider visiting a supposedly haunted building. Your mood shifts, you feel agitated, but you can't see or hear anything unusual. In an old building, there is a good chance that infrasound is present, particularly in basements where aging pipes and ventilation systems produce low frequency vibrations. If you were told the building was haunted, you might attribute that agitation to something supernatural. In reality, you may simply have been exposed to infrasound. Infrasound is an inaudible annoyance that triggers our internal alarms. So infrasound is a very low frequency sound below 20 hertz which we cannot hear, said the researchers. Despite it being undetectable to the ear, our bodies respond to the nuisance, which causes increased irritability and higher cortisol levels per the report, which, me being in mental health, definitely know about cortisol. It's the stress hormone our body releases, which is usually when I'm teaching people about coping skills and such. But, when we're in a fearful situation like that, it's also going to produce that feeling of unease, that you kind of get, or you feel like you're being watched maybe a little bit. Infrasound is pervasive in everyday environments, appearing near ventilation systems, traffic, and industrial machinery. But we're around that stuff all the time, and I don't feel uneasy or necessarily stressed out, though. That's the thing. So I don't know if that. And as someone who's been to places that are haunted, I don't know if that's. I don't get the same feeling that I've had at certain locations, so I don't know if I agree with their take. I see what they mean, though. In the wild, some animals use it to communicate while others avoid it altogether. Humans are often exposed to it without knowing it. Okay, Schmaltz, along with his investigative team, recruited 36 participants to sit alone in a room while either calming or unsettling music played. For half the participants, hidden subwoofers played infrasound at 18 hertz, so I don't think they'd be able to hear it, because I believe it was, under 20? Yes. Sorry. Okay. So they most likely would not be able to hear it. After listening, participants were asked to report their feelings, their emotional rating of the music, and whether they thought the infrasound was present. They also gave saliva samples before and after listening. So here's a look at kind of how they had it set up. So subwoofer there, and a subwoofer there. Okay. Analysts found that the respondents' salivary cortisol levels, so they checked the cortisol levels in their saliva, And they did find that the cortisol levels were higher if they were listening to the infrasound. Folks from the subset also reported feeling more irritable and less interested in thinking the music was sadder. So, but I thought anything under 20 we couldn't hear, right? So that's kind of my whole, how was their music playing? Okay, I got it. So they had music playing, and then for half of the participants, they had another hidden. They had hidden stuff for playing infrasound at the same time. Okay, never mind. I got it. I thought they were playing music at 18 hertz, but then I was like, wait, well, if they can't hear the music and they have infrasound playing with the music and it's all being played at 18 hertz, would they even be able to hear the music? But never mind. I got it. I worked out in my brain. So let's see. Folks in the subset also reported feeling more irritable and less interested in thinking the music playing was sadder, but they couldn't tell that they were listening to infrasound. The study suggests the body can respond to infrasound even when we can't consciously hear it. Participants could not reliably identify whether infrasound was present, and their beliefs about it, whether it was on, had no detectable effect on their cortisol or mood. So we got another person, Kale Scatterty, first author and PhD student at the University of Alberta, also Canada, confirmed the findings. Increased irritability and higher cortisol are naturally related because when people feel more irritated or stressed, cortisol tends to rise as part of the body's normal stress response. Yes, it does. Infrasound exposure had effects on both outcomes that went beyond that natural relationship. While it's certain that humans can sense but not identify infrasound, it is unclear whether prolonged exposure to noise can impact health through consistently elevated cortisol levels and well-being issues related to lower mood and increased irritability. Increased cortisol levels helps the body respond to immediate stressors by inducing a state of vigilance. So kind of like what I was saying, you kind of feel like you're being watched, you're kind of vigilant. This is an evolutionary adapted response that helps us in many situations. Prolonged cortisol release is not a good thing, can lead to a variety of psychological conditions and alter your mental health. I'm just iffy about that though, because it talks about like the everyday traffic and everything, but I don't ever feel that like what's watching me feeling, when and I mean I was somewhere, I wasn't even in a home like that. Let's talk about, the places like outside where there isn't any of that rickety plumbing and and you're further away from infrasound, right? I've been in places in the bum middle of nowhere. There's no traffic, no machinery, nothing, and getting like an uneasy feeling and documenting that something was nearby on an EMF reader. And there's no EMF fields out there anywhere. Like, I mean, it's just like middle of the nowhere nature, right? So, could that be the case in houses? Yes. But there's areas that have none of the stuff talked about here, and yet there's still uneasy, weird things that you can't describe, that I wasn't able to describe anyway. They do concede that further probing is needed to fully understand how infrasound can influence our emotion and behavior. We only tested a specific frequency. There could be many more frequencies and combinations that have differential effects. This would actually be nice. They're hoping that these inquiries will allow us to change noise regulations and building design standards, please. Because man, the last place I lived in, like I could hear everything from the neighbors upstairs. I could hear their conversations, every little footstep. Like there was no no barrier of noise at all. It was the worst. And I would make a complaint and it would just be like, oh well. you know I would tell the landlords like, man, the noise comes through so loudly, like, but So hopefully that does make us have better standards. Okay, back on the topic here. One last thing from Schmaltz is someone who studies pseudoscience and misinformation. What stands out to me is that infrasound produces real, measurable reactions without any visible or audible source. So the next time something feels inexplicably off in a basement or a building, consider that the cause might be vibrating pipes rather than restless spirits. So I will agree with him there. It definitely could be, and there are paranormal people that I have watched, paranormal channels and investigators I've watched that have found that it's just vibrating pipes. I think way back of like Taps and Ghost Hunters, on the Sci-Fi Channel and stuff. Like, so they were actually plumbers, and they would often check the plumbing in the basement. And I think there was earlier a time where there was a loose vibrating pipe, and they fixed it, and then the noise stopped. So, but that to me doesn't fix all things when there's areas like graveyards that are nowhere near nothing and there's no machinery, no nothing nearby, and you're still getting that kind of spooky feeling, and then you actually capture evidence on like cameras and EMF detectors and temperature changes and stuff like. So this doesn't fully debunk to me. It could, and I do agree that it could debunk a lot of our feelings in homes and such, but there's still a lot out there that's unknown, like there's figures you catch on cameras and weird occurrences like that. Like, how do you explain items moving caught on camera? Like, it's not going to be a vibrating pipe way down in the basement. Uh so I agree but disagree at the same time a little bit. I wouldn't consider that a debunk of all paranormal activity, but you let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with their take? Do you think it's bull bull butter? or, or do you even just think that the whole paranormal field alone is just a bunch of hogwash? You let me know. I think it does debunk some of the things that people just automatically assume, oh, ghost, which is what I like to debunk, but it doesn't debunk all. So, all right, stick around for next time. Like I mentioned in the other videos, when these post the following week, the content around this channel is going to look different. We're going to be making some changes. I hope you really enjoy the changes that are coming, and I appreciate all the support we have been receiving. We received a lot of new support yesterday when we were live on Twitch. As you see on screen, we had some followers, we had a cheer, some bits. I shouted them out in they've already been shouted out in the video, so I don't want to keep repeating myself, but I want to thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have a wonderful Saturday. Hit follow, like, subscribe wherever you're watching this, which should be on the YouTube. To be honest, I don't even know why I threw that out there. Scramble brain right now, getting ready for work, but in a few. But hope you're having a wonderful Saturday. See you next time. Peace.